In this video, we'll be learning about the split panes and freeze panes. Very interesting, important topic. Now, what is freeze panes and split panes? Let's try to understand. We have a data on a screen and the data is about all the countries across the world, and these are, let's say, some values. Let's say it's a GDP or some value over here or some sales. So, the data is a historical data right from 1970 onwards, and if you see, we have data till many years of data is there. Okay, so it's a government data basically, and the data goes till 2013. Okay, that's all data here. But now if you ask me what is this data of which country, I cannot answer. Okay, if you ask me what is the data and for which country, I cannot answer that thing. So I have to scroll on the left hand side to row number 7. If you see, I have to keep on scrolling to the left hand side, and then I can tell you that this data belongs to Afghanistan. Okay, you understand, right? So from the first column and the last column, I do not have relatability. I don't have comparison between them. Why? Because in between there are so many columns which are disturbing. Similarly, if I scroll down and if I find out this value, if someone is asking me what is this value, I do not know the answer, because I will tell them it belongs to O column. I will tell them it belongs to the row number 52. It's not the right way of conveying the message. So what we need to do is we have to freeze the column headers and row headers. Remember, column headers and row headers we have to freeze, so that on the top always there will be a year, and on the left hand side first column always it would be what you call the country name. So how do we do that? Okay, so many methods are there. I'll give you the best method. Let's understand one by one. So we can go to view menu bar. So I'm talking about a topic named as freeze panes. Okay, so the first one, view menu bar, and here if you see in the window group, this is a window group, we have the option as freeze panes. Three options are there. So if you see the last two options, freeze top row and freeze first column, see last two options. If I click on freeze top row, what will happen is this top row will be freezed or fixed, and if I scroll down, the first row or the top row will not change. Now I can tell you confidently that this data belongs to year 1984. If I go on the right hand side, I can tell you this data belongs to 1995. Why? Because the first row has been freezed. But if you ask me this data belongs to which country, I do not have the answer, because I told them only to freeze first row, not the column. So let us go back. We can go to freeze panes. Now if I click on freeze first column, what happens is freeze first column, this has freezed which you call as W column, which is not right. So I have to press Ctrl Z. Okay, I will go back here. I will freeze first column. I'll deselect this option. If I want to unfreeze the panes, I have to click on unfreeze panes. So now the row headings and column headings have been unfreezed. I was talking about how to freeze the first column. So remember, the first column should be visible. Okay, my cursor should be in the first column. It should be visible. And now I can click on freeze first column. When I do that, carefully observe, there's a line, thin line which is created here. Now when I scroll, if you see, I can see the first column over there. I can tell you confidently that this value belongs to Afghanistan here. But if I go down, again the problem is for the row heading. So there's a lot of confusion over here. Sometimes the first column gets freezed, sometimes the first row gets freezed, because these are only one option separately. They are not together. Okay. If I want to do it together, how do I do that? Carefully observe. So first I'll unfreeze. Okay. If you keep your cursor in cell number B2, okay, if you keep your cursor in cell number B2, all the data on the left hand side and all the data on the top, okay, it will be freezed. Carefully observe. The left hand side column would be freezed and the top row would be freezed. If I keep my cursor in cell number, let's say D8, okay, if I keep my cursor in D8, so the freeze panes will freeze left hand side and the top row here. Okay, carefully observe. If I go to freeze panes, now if I click on freeze, wherever your cursor is there, above that and before that, I can click on freeze panes. So you see, there's a line created over here. Now I can scroll here, I can scroll here. You see what is happening? This place are freezed over here. Okay. So what I need to do is I will unfreeze the pane. Remember, our question was we want to freeze first row and first column. First row and first column. So therefore, our cursor should be in B2. First row and first column. What is the first row number? 1. First row is 1 and the column, first column is A. Okay. So A1 we want to freeze. So our cursor should be in B2. Okay. Now when we click on freeze panes, and you can see there's a line created here, and there's also a line which is not visible because of black color. So if I go down, row is freezed. If I go on the right, column is freeze. So this is the perfect way of watching the data. Now usually sometimes, let me unfreeze. Now sometimes you do not have only one row and one column. You may have two rows, two columns to be freeze. For example, if I just insert and if I write as something home menu bar, merge and center. Sometimes you might have a heading, sometimes you might have a column heading, row heading, anything. So now if I want to freeze this data, I will keep my cursor in cell number maybe B3. And now I can click on this view menu bar, and here we go, freeze panes. So if you see, when I scroll down, this two rows are freezed and this one column is freezed. Remember, that's a method. So let me unfreeze this option. Okay, that's one thing. Now the second option, this was the freeze panes. The next option we have is split. Now what is that split option? If you see, there's a disadvantage or limitation in the freeze panes. Okay, what happens in the freeze panes? This is fixed and I cannot move the column and row heading. Now if I want to compare, let's say L column with M column, okay, randomly any column with any column, because earlier I was comparing the A column with last column maybe, okay, but this time I want to compare, let's say, F column with J column or G column with H column, anything. So first thing, keep your cursor in cell number E1 and here you can click on split. So wherever you keep your cursor, okay, let's say if you keep your cursor here, this will split the above rows, this will split the before columns here. So when we click on split panes. So if you see, the line is little bit thicker. The earlier line was black. This line is kind of gray line. It's not a black line. And what is the difference here? If you see on the right hand side, now there are two vertical scroll bars, two scroll bars vertical. And here at the bottom, there are two horizontal scroll bars. Okay. If you see, there are two horizontal scroll bars. So now I can move on the right hand side. Suppose I want to compare, let's say F column with L column. So I will just move to find F column and I will find out here. Okay, so this way, let me just move it here, F column, and here I can just find out the L column. So you see, I can compare any column with any column. I can compare any row with any row. So I can also select here and I can just move it down. So I'm comparing row number 23 with row number, let's say, any row over here. That is so easy now. And the best part is, if you don't like, so now this is not fixed, it's flexible. So if I want to move it back, I can just double click on this place. I can double click on this line, double click on the line, it goes away. So split pane is flexible. So freeze panes can freeze first few rows, first few columns. Okay, those options. But split pane, it is movable. Okay, if I keep my cursor here, split pane, now I can just move this on the top like this, or I can move this on the left or right. So it is so flexible, you can change the data anywhere. Now this is kind of 3D, 2D, you can call anything, and it is able to compare. So in order to disable, we can just click on split panes. So this is how you can work on freeze panes and split panes. Many people in the company, what they do is, I'll tell you the method. If they want to compare a column with the last column, they go and select all the columns till the right hand side like this, and then they right click and then click on hide. And that's how they compare the first and the last column. It is good, but why to make it so difficult when we have freeze panes and split panes options? So then they go back, then they select, and then they right click and unhide. This is the option available in Microsoft Excel. I hope you have understood about the freeze panes and split panes in Excel. That's all for this video.